As short-term rental hosts, we are always looking for ways to improve the guest experience and also to avoid guest complaints.
Over time, we've noticed some common themes in guest feedback, and that's not just from our own properties, but things we've heard from a broader host community.
And speaking of feedback, if you haven't taken our quick 3-minute survey, we ask you to please click on the link in the description box below and give us your feedback.
We know that no one likes to do surveys, but we put a lot of effort into putting out free content. So we want to make sure that the project that we have in the works really resonates and makes sense and brings value to all of you.
So please and thank you in advance for that. And back to today's video topic.
Sure, I'll take a survey.
We're sharing the top guest complaints that we see the most, and more importantly, how to prevent them from happening and how to dissolve that conflict a bit if they do happen.
These tips have helped us and other hosts maintain high guest ratings and keep people coming back. So let's get started.
The first thing that guests complain about a lot are issues with pools and hot tubs, specifically the temperature of the pools and the cleanliness of the pools and hot tubs.
So we always inspect a house on the day of a guest arrival, and if needed, we will skim out any leaves or debris that's fallen in the pool since the last time our pool service person was there.
But we live in an area where dusty wind can pick up quickly and unexpectedly, and there have been times when this wind will blow in leaves and debris into the pool in between when we've checked and the guest arrives.
We do leave a skimmer net that guests can use, and then the pool filtration system will also take care of some of that, but otherwise it's twice weekly in our area pool service that we have at each property.
And it was a few of these times when the wind had come and blown debris into the pool in between us skimming and checking and the guests getting there. Maybe a few hours have gone by, and Airbnb in some of these instances issued large, if not full, refunds to guests for uncleanly major amenities.
How dare you!
Most people are pretty easygoing about this, but then there's some who aren't. And what we don't understand is people swim in lakes and rivers and the ocean, but once you introduce some dirt into a pool or a few leaves on the surface, it suddenly becomes like a health hazard.
So what we've started to implement is taking a photo of the pool after our inspection, after we've made sure it's clean and debris free, just in case we need to pull up something that's time-stamped in the event of an issue with the guest.
We do have a professional pool vacuum if there's some emergency situation and it's going to be a couple days before our scheduled pool service comes back again, because there have been some instances, like for example, where a pool was cleaned in the morning, the wind came up, guests came in the afternoon, and pool is looking dirty, and the pool person isn't going to come back for 3 more days.
For hot tubs, we have a handheld manual pump that we can use to clean out dirt and debris, and we will link all of our favorite tools for maintaining pools and hot tubs down in the description box.
Pool temperature or guest perception of the pool temperature has also been a complaint we've heard a few times, and this is even when we have all the right systems in place.
So we charge an extra fee for heating the pool. It's going to vary depending on the size of the pool, the depth of the pool, and also the type of heater that it has, if it's an electric heat pump or if it runs on propane, but we always heat to 85 degrees.
The problem is I don't think most people have ever wondered what the specific temperature of the water they're swimming in is, and 85 degrees doesn't feel like a bathtub, but I think people think it should. 85 degrees is gonna take the edge off a nice swim that you want to take, but on a cool morning or a winter day when the daytime high is only in the mid-70s, it's still gonna feel a little chilly.
I like how he said a winter day when the daytime high is in the 70s. We're in California.
But in this crazy California, it's summer all winter.
But that's where having the right pool equipment where you can monitor these temperatures remotely comes into play. If a guest does say that the pool feels cold, we can just log into the app and double check that all the settings are correct, that the heater's on and working, and that it is in fact 85 degrees.
There have been a few instances where a guest is right that something wasn't working correctly. So having that remote access has been key, where we can log in, check the settings. It might save us a trip if all that is necessary is that we restart the pool heater, things get going, pool water gets warm. Most of the time though, this is just an issue of guest expectations and what 85 degrees actually feels like.
Another common guest complaint that we've seen online, but also experienced ourselves from the guest perspective when we're traveling and staying in short-term rentals, and that is a confusing or complicated check-in process.
Traveling can be tiring and sometimes stressful, especially if you're traveling with kids. And the last thing anyone wants to do after a long travel day is hunt around in the dark for a lockbox trying to get into their vacation rental.
The key. Where is the key.
That's why we've made it a point at our properties to not only provide clear and concise check-in instructions, but to make the whole check-in process as a whole as uncomplicated as possible.
When we're setting up a new property, we start at the street and think about what's the most logical way for guests to get into the house.
This path is going to be unique to most every property, so what we do mostly might not work for you, but for the majority of houses in our portfolio, we start with a electronic keypad at the garage door and then a smart lock at the entry door from the garage into the house.
We'll link our favorites of those items in the description box below. There are some times, however, where maybe that scenario doesn't work, house is laid out differently. The key here is keep that process as simple and easy to figure out as possible.
And once you have that check-in path figured out, it's time to clearly and simply communicate all the details to the guest.
The Airbnb mobile app has a simple and easy to use check-in guide creation process.
So we go through and take a photo of each step and then upload it to that check-in guide. So with all of this pre-planning, it's very rare that we actually have an issue with a guest check-in unless they don't read the check-in instructions.
What instructions?
If that does happen, we try to be a quick reply away, and we can dissolve that situation before it escalates by maybe remotely unlocking the door if they're having trouble with it, or directing them to how to use the lock if they haven't read the check-in instructions.
And if there ever is a technical issue with the smart lock, we always leave a spare key in a lockbox somewhere on site.
Another issue that can really upset an otherwise happy guest is unreliable or unstable Wi-Fi connection.
These days, fast and reliable internet is an absolute necessity, especially for guests who need to work remotely. So you should do the research in your area and find out which providers are the fastest and most reliable.
Once you take care of finding a service plan, the next step is having reliable and thorough coverage for Wi-Fi on your property, and the router that comes from your service provider probably isn't going to provide that.
We prefer to swap out those standard issue routers from the service provider for a mesh router system, and we usually buy the Orbi routers from Netgear, and we'll link those models in the description box below.
The mesh routers are fast, they're reliable, and if you do have an expansive home, you can add additional satellites to expand your coverage throughout your property, including the outdoor space where guests might hang out.
One way to maximize coverage is to make sure to put the router in a central location on the property and not inside of a cabinet. Thankfully, these Orbi routers are a little more sleek and modern looking compared to the big black box from the ISP, so they're not as much of an eyesore to keep out in the open.
If you have a remote property where wire-based internet options might not be available, SpaceX Starlink is the go-to choice. It's going to be a bit more expensive compared to plans you might find in a city where there's competitors and a marketplace for various choices, but SpaceX Starlink is fast, it's reliable, and it gets your guests connected.
One thing to consider though with Starlink is if there's a lot of tree cover, you're not going to get that reliability. So make sure that your property has a clear view of the sky. One other choice to consider if your wire-based internet service providers in your area is limited is to use a cellular-based provider. For example, we have T-Mobile home internet at 3 different properties and it works very well.
We did a bit of research to make sure there was T-Mobile towers nearby each of these locations, but they do have a free trial period. If you try it and it doesn't work well, you can return it for no cost. And one thing to mention, in either the case of Starlink or T-Mobile home internet, you can connect those services to an Orbi router if you need extended coverage throughout your property. And last point, we'll leave links to these options in the description box below.
Another common issue we've seen for guest complaints is insufficient or poor quality kitchen supplies.
Competition among short-term rentals has never been higher, and a properly stocked and outfitted kitchen has never been more important.
We're not saying that you have to fully stock the pantry. In fact, we kind of advise against putting a lot of expiring items out, but we do like to see basics like cooking oil, salt and pepper, maybe a few other spices. But we do still think it's crucial to have the right tools in place.
If you aren't sure if your property has all the essentials, or maybe you need to be reminded of what you're missing, we'll leave a link in the description box below to our sample inventory list.
This list is free to access and it has links to all of the products that we buy for our own rental properties, so you can rest assured that these products are at a good price point and also a good quality.
And if there's anything special about the way your kitchen works, maybe you have a complicated stovetop, be sure to leave a little description of how to use it in your house manual.
We've even seen some hosts create a little tutorial video and post it on YouTube for how to use certain amenities throughout their house. But regardless of how you share that information to the guests, you need to make sure that you know all of the quirks so that when these issues do come up, you have a quick answer for them.
If you have a well-stocked and well-equipped kitchen already, then you should consider adding some keywords to your listing, describing your amenities. Also take some very good photos of the kitchen area, and then request on Airbnb that you be added to the chef's kitchen category.
Chef's kitchen is one of the many categories that can be auto-assigned to your property on Airbnb, but not all hosts know that you can actually request that your property be put into additional categories. And we'll leave a link in the description box below if you'd like to look into this further for your property.
The last, but definitely not the least item that guests are going to complain about is cleanliness of your property. If there's one thing that can quickly turn a guest's attitude bad and lead to bad reviews is stained sheets or dirty toilet or any kind of cleanliness problem that they find.
We make cleanliness a top priority at all of our properties because we know that even the little things like dirty baseboards can leave a bad first impression and also entice the guests to start searching for more issues, and they usually find them.
Ew, ew, ew!
To ensure a consistent standard, we make sure to set clear expectations and sort of standard operating procedures with our cleaners on what's expected during every guest turnover.
We also do what's called a perfection inspection after every cleaning before the guests arrive. This is just a second set of eyes on the property to make sure that there were no missed cleaning issues and also that everything is properly stocked for the guest's arrival.
If you manage a property remotely, this can be a little tougher, but in those cases, we've usually found a local person who we can pay on a task basis to go check the properties, do the restocking, but maybe you can also ask your cleaner if they'd be available for that. Maybe a second member of the team would be available for that. It's just a way for them to double check their work.
In the instances where we do have the cleaners double checking their own work, we make sure that they see it as sort of a second task to cleaning, like a fresh set of eyes. And they usually also send us photos and videos because it's important to maintain quality control even from a distance.
A clean place is one of the easiest ways to set a guest's mind at ease and have them enjoy their stay and therefore leave you a 5-star review.
We hope you found today's video helpful, and please don't forget to check out the quick survey in the description box below, as well as other links that we mentioned in today's video.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.